Hi, this is Pastor Steve with Word Study, day number 2. We did 40 days of the Word of the Day, and now we're doing a Word Study for 40 days, and mainly using the Nelson's Compact Bible Dictionary as our reference. And so the word study today is with the word alms, A-L-M-S. This is money that is given out of mercy for the poor. Now, the Israelites were commanded to give generously to the poor and those that were in need. And one example of that is found in Deuteronomy chapter 15 and verse 11, where it says here, there will always be poor people in the land. So there's always going to be people that have needs, people that we can serve. Therefore, I command you to be open-handed toward your fellow Israelites who are poor and who are needy in the land. Another thing is that the Israelites were instructed when they planted vineyards and orchards and olive groves and fields, that part of that they should make available to the poor. In Leviticus chapter 19, verses 9 and 10, look what it says. When you reap the harvest of your land, do not reap to the very edges of your field or gather the gleanings of your harvest. Do not go over your vineyard a second time or pick up the grapes that have fallen. Leave them for the poor and the foreigner, because I am the Lord your God. Now, one of the other things that's mentioned is that there were blessings that were promised to those who were giving to the needy. Proverbs has a couple of those instances. Proverbs chapter 14 and verse 21. It is a sin to despise one's neighbor, but blessed is the one who is kind to the needy. And then in chapter 19 and verse 17, whoever is kind to the poor also lends to the Lord, and he will reward them for what they have done. By Jesus' time, the word alms was closely tied with the word righteousness. And when Jesus taught about charitable deeds or almsgiving, he taught them that they were to be not of a theatrical display to win people's applause. The praise that comes from God is more important. And we find in Matthew chapter 6, verses 1 through 4, these words, "Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. If you do, you will have no reward from your Father in heaven." So when you give to the needy, so when, not if, when you give to the needy, do not announce it with trumpets, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, to be honored by others. Truly, I tell you, they have received their reward fully. In other words, they've already received all the reward they're going to get from the applause of men. But when you give to the needy, do not let your left hand know what your right hand is doing, so that your giving may be in secret. Then your Father who sees what's done in secret will reward you. Well, the book of Acts commends favorably on several instances of almsgiving. A couple that I want to mention. One is a certain disciple at Joppa, a woman named Tabitha or Dorcas, was full of good works and charitable deeds. We find that in the book of Acts, chapter 9 and verse 36. In Joppa, there was a disciple named Tabitha. In Greek, her name is Dorcas. She was always doing good and always helping the poor. Well, we also find that there was a God-fearing man named Cornelius who gave alms generously to the poor. And we find that in Acts chapter 10 and verse 2. He and his family were devout and God-fearing. He gave generously to those in need and prayed to God regularly. Well, then as now, God acknowledges those who give gifts of food to the hungry and in other ways show compassion to the needy. In 1 John chapter 3 and verse 17, if anyone has material possessions and sees a brother or sister in need, but has no pity on them, how can the love of God be in that person? So if you don't have compassion for the needy, the scripture is saying, how on earth can you claim to have the love of God in your life? Well, a couple of things in closing here. One is, are you willing to be used of God to give alms, to help meet the needs of the needy and the poor around you? And the second truth would be this. What do you want to get out of it? Hopefully you want God to be glorified. You don't want to draw attention to yourself, and you don't just want the applause of men. So I hope you learned something today. God bless.